G'day my fellow media collectors and welcome to the Comic Book Movie Collector's Guide, your show about collecting all things superhero cinema. I'm your host Troy and today we are going to have a subscriber request and we are going to review The Amazing Bulk on DVD and have a look and see, should you add this to your collection? I don't know. What do you say we get into it?
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, the Super Friends.
The Amazing Bulk is a live-action superhero movie with a runtime of 76 minutes. The film was released straight to home video on the 17th of April 2012 on DVD by Tomcat Films and later re-released on digital platforms and DVD on the 19th of May 2015 by independent label Wild Eye Releasing with no Blu-ray or 4K HD release as of this video. It was written by Keith Schaffner with it directed by Lewis Schoenbrun. The film was produced by Laybl Productions and distributed by Wild Eye Releasing. The film gained notoriety due to how its visuals are entirely all reused stock imagery and videos, and it is even considered to be the worst superhero film ever made. Okay, let's look at the case, and this is probably one of the most redeeming features of this movie, but of course I'll get into that later. But this cover isn't that bad. It actually is not too bad. Compared to what's inside, this is probably the best part of it. It really does sort of, I like it. It kind of comes at you. You kind of like, you know what you're in for, put it that way. As far as the side goes, yeah, just it kind of is very small, blends in, you can't really see it. On the back, it's just got some screenshots. Like I said, when you'll find out later, most of the effort seems to have gone into this DVD case more so than the actual movie. Now if we look at the disc, it's just a shot of the front cover. So, but at least we get a colour disc. I've got to give them props for that. Overall, it's pretty good. It actually makes this think that this, it makes you think that this is better than it actually is. Trust me, once we delve into it, you'll see what I mean. But this actually kind of tricks you into thinking you're going to get a decent movie. Anyway, yeah, so I am going to give this, yeah, bugger it. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. So this movie introduces us to Henry Hank Howard on his mission to create the ultimate super soldier serum for General Darwin, whose daughter Hannah he is in love with. Now, after years of failure and frustration, Hank, in a moment of desperation to earn the approval of General Darwin to marry his daughter, Henry tests the formula on himself, inadvertently transforming him into a purple rage monster, the Amazing Bulk, and setting him on a path of destruction to anyone that gets in his way.
You'll regret getting in my way.
So this story is just a very, very poor rip-off of the first Hulk movie to a degree. Not the complete story, but a very similar premise. Because there's no real character building here, there's very little backstory or motivation for the characters, and in some parts it looks like the script was actually written around what stock footage they had bought for the movie. Like the bad guy, Dr. Wiener von Cantlove, which I'll get to him a little later. He has this castle, right, with these guards, and they've all got Roman helmets and spears, which makes absolutely no bloody sense until one of them gets turned into a skeleton, which, funnily enough, has a Roman helmet and spear. So, like I said, written around the stock footage and not necessarily written for the story, which kind of leads to a lot of things in this movie that just have no rhyme or no reason for being there at all.
Nothing about his story makes any sense!
So look, the premise of this movie is, wait for it, trust me.
Now I'm on the edge of my seat, so what happened?
At its core is a rich guy has erectile dysfunction and hires a military scientist to create a superhero serum that will cure it.
I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you correctly.
No, you did. I mean, come on. You're telling me that a guy that can't get a hard on is hiring the military to cure him of it? For crying out loud, hasn't he heard of the internet? I mean, that's one of the dumbest ideas I have ever heard for a story. I mean, But look, from what I can gather, the whole point of that is to make a joke about his name, Dr. Wiener von Can't-Love. So everyone throughout the movie is calling him Can't-Love all the way through. This is like the punchline to the joke. Only problem is that you don't get the setup for that joke until the last 10 minutes of the movie. So the punchline is all the way through, and then you do the setup at the end. Like, that's some really bad writing.
It's interesting to see just how bad writing can be.
Anyway, look, I think I could go on for an hour or more with some of the plot holes in this script, seriously. But look, at the end, I'm going to have to wind it up at some stage. So, look, the best I'm going to do for this script is, and I'm being generous here, 2 out of 30. Now, this is not based off any actual comic book characters as such, but this is one of those cheap knockoff films, or mockbusters as they're more commonly known as. And of course, this one is a direct rip-off of the Hulk movie and its associated characters. Now, when I say cheap, the total budget for this film was, that's right, $14,000, which is just a drop in the ocean for an average movie. But in fairness, this was all totally self-financed by the director himself and not a studio as such.
It cost me everything.
Look, I feel like their choice of doing this all in front of a green screen and using stock footage is really what makes this movie famous, for all the wrong reasons, as they use this stock footage, like terrible stock footage, that makes it look even cheaper than, say, if you tried to go shoot it out in locations and just use the CGI graphics when you're needing them. This movie probably wouldn't have looked terrible as it did.
Probably still pretty bad.
I mean, it's one thing to use the basic stock footage, but when you have some of the CGI photos look like they were painted by a 5-year-old in Microsoft Paint from like a copy on a computer that was running in like Windows 98, then you are literally trying hard to make this movie look cheap and nasty.
Is it really that bad?
So for the actors,
And I use that term loosely.
I will have them up here. And if you've heard of any of these actors, it's probably because you know them as a friend, because I will bet you any money you haven't seen them in anything else.
Can't say that I have.
Look, I have seen some low budget movies in my time, but you will from time to time see someone in there that in the cast that probably puts out a reasonable performance. But in this case, everyone was pretty bad across the board. And our leading man, Jordan Lawson, which I'll have here, was terrible at best. His performance as Hank looked forced, like he was really trying so hard to act, but instead he just couldn't do it. And instead of looking like a scientist, he looked like a white trash trailer park resident that sells crack on the sides just to get by. I mean, what scientist do you know that has an awful looking tribal tattoo down one arm like that?
I don't think that's a real thing.
Now, as bad as he was, he's not our true star of this movie. No, Terrence Lording as General Darwin. He was just downright friggin' atrocious. His performance will go down in history books as some of the worst acting ever put to film.
Because this is the worst thing I have ever seen.
It was so god-awful to watch. He was so stiff, and it was almost like he was robotically reading it from a cue card, you know, like that type of stuff. Like, I mean, even worse than, say, like a really bad soap opera. It was just painful to watch. Oh, God. Anyway, with that, I'm going to be generous again and give it, oh, look, a 2 out of 20. So, we do have some special features here, and they include a director's commentary, deleted scenes, behind the scene footage, storyboards, and 8 previews. Now, when I say special features, these aren't special at all. Like, say for instance, the deleted scenes were terrible, as one of them was literally a 3-second shot of someone riding in a car. Not even worth the time or effort to be put as a deleted scene, with no one talking. It was just, yeah, it was weird. And the behind the scenes was how a shot was seen, so how a scene was shot from storyboard to final shot. And look, honestly, when you watch it, it was pretty much the way you would guess it. So look, no real surprises here. Okay, look, these are features, but there is nothing interesting here to watch by any stretch of the imagination. So look, because they actually put some on here, unlike some people that don't put any on here, I'm going to be generous and give it a 2 out of 10. Now, the critic score came in at 0%, no real surprise there, and the audience score was 50%. Now look, when I saw this, I was shocked. I mean, really? 50% on the audience score? So I thought, look, I've got to look into this. And so I started looking up the reviews and discovered people were actually trolling on the reviews. So look, I'll show some examples here of what I made. So what they're doing is they're giving it a 5-star review and then leaving a trolling comment in the after the review. So like, say for instance, this movie changed my life, which when you scroll through, people are trying to outdo each other now in the comments and be funnier than the last one. So now it's turned into a game and not necessarily a proper reflection of how good this movie is. So look, anyway, I mean, they're fun to read, but anyway, if we round it up with that score, unfortunately, it's going to get, I still can't believe this, 5 out of 10. Okay, so a good mate of mine, Rob at Roberto Nero Superheroes, go check him out if you haven't already and give him a subscribe. He has some great content there. Now, he requested me to review this, and of course, oh look, I've heard of this movie and I kind of knew of its reputation, and I had no plans of reviewing this anytime soon. But when Rob put out the request, I was like,
I accept that challenge.
So I went out and bought it. And as soon as it arrived in the post, I watched it. And I swear to Christ, no word of a lie, I probably sat there through most of the movie with my mouth just wide open in shock, just going,
What the hell is going on here?
I feel like I need to scrub my eyes out with soap and water, as this movie is an abomination on cinema. I wish I could say that they were self-aware about the fact that they were making a bad film, but it doesn't look that way to me. It looks like they were really trying to make a movie, but they were failing dismally. There is no redeeming features to this film. The script was bad. The acting was bad. The camera work was terrible. The CGI, oh my God, that wasn't bad. That was terrible.
This show is an abomination.
I didn't enjoy this movie. I was just perplexed at how something like this ever got made. So look, thank you, Rob, for putting me through this, you cheeky bugger. I might have to think twice next time you request a review, I tell you. Anyway, I'm going to be super generous, which I've been through all this video, and I'm going to give this a 1 out of 20. So first up is Collectibility, and if we look at the collector scale, I would say this would be really for your completist collector like myself, and for no one else. Seriously, as there is nothing, and when I say nothing, I mean nothing, for anyone out there to put a copy of this movie into your collection. Now, as far as availability goes on this one, for me, I think this is just going to scrape into the average side of things. As sure, you can find copies out there, but there's not like there's a heap of them out there to pick from, if you know what I mean. So look, you're not going to find it in your usual retail outlets, but you will definitely find some copies for sale on your online retail spots, like your eBay. As far as your average price goes, you're looking at somewhere between the $24 to $42 mark for DVD, and I think that's just because there's not too many copies out there to pick from, that it can still kind of pull that $20 mark. And of course, there is nothing for Blu-ray or 4K HD as of this video. Now, the final score, we get a grand total of 19 out of 100. Ouch. Yeah, that's by far the lowest score we have had here. Yeah, that's terrible. And I don't think there are any other movies out there that are really going to give it a run for its money, that's for sure. So look, we asked the question, should you add this to your collection? Of course not. Jeez, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that to yourself, or for that matter of fact, your poor collection?
It's just something I'm not going to do.
So, if you like this video and you want to see some more of my reviews, I've got some right there. Or maybe you want to see some of my collection updates. got you covered too. Why don't you click that one there? And of course, don't forget to do the most important thing, throw me a bat like. Don't forget to hit that subscription button on the way out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.